Welcome to the Art of Procurement podcast. My name is Philip Ideson, a 20-year procurement practitioner, former head of procurement and advisor to procurement leaders around the world. I started out of procurement to help leaders and their teams access the resources they need to increase their impact through insight-driven procurement. You are listening to our flagship podcast where we pull back the curtain and shine a light on the strategies, tactics and tools that leading procurement teams are using to align their impact with the needs of their business. And today is the third and final of 3 bonus episodes that I thought I would publish this week as we get closer to 2022, reflecting on sessions that I've particularly enjoyed during our major flagship events of 2021. This third episode is from our Mastermind LIVE Fall 2021 virtual event from this past October, and I wanted to share a session that I moderated with Chet Patel, the Chief Commercial Officer and President of the Americas at BT, and Cyril Pourrat, the CPO at BT Sourced, BT's procurement services company. Now, if you're a regular listener, you'll know that I've had a few podcasts recently that have featured the team at BT Sourced, and we actually have some more to come from an event that we recently partnered with BT Sourced on. But that's for good reason. We have a front row seat to watch the transformation of a large enterprise procurement team, and one that I think is setting the standard for the future of procurement. Now, at Art of Procurement, I want to share more stakeholder voices. It's something I'm always on the lookout for, because we often assume that we know what stakeholders want or need from procurement, but we often miss the mark when we make those assumptions. So in this session, we get to see what stakeholder collaboration really looks like, how procurement is enabling that, the questions that they asked, and I think there's lots of inspiration that you can apply to your category or to your procurement group, really irrespective of your size. So with that said, let's go straight into the session. What I think we can talk about is what it means in practice to build stakeholder engagement. And where I'm going to start is just by asking you, Chet, if you don't mind, if you could just tell us a little bit about your role at BT.
So my role at BT is, as you mentioned, I run the commercial office, and effectively I work with Cyril and multiple partners and vendors, purchasing equipment and capabilities off them, turning that into an end-to-end service for big multinational customers, effectively. So I have teams of marketeers that create awareness, create demand, and I have teams of specialist sales people and technical commercial people that will craft out contracts which will add value to customers in their digital transformation journey, right? Which is the best way to describe it.
And so you're using suppliers to help deliver ultimately on commitments that you and that BT is making to your customers.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to say 99% of what we do will involve a vendor, a partner, somebody in the ecosystem, because we are very reliant on, hey, we know what we're good at, which is providing managed services, but we're not going to make our own CPE or equipment, for example, or try and compete with the hyperscalers on cloud, for example. Yeah. So we'll partner with those guys and stitch together a solution that will add value to our customers.
Well, thanks for that context. I want to ask Cyril for some context as well. And first of all, a comment from Kelly commenting you on your nice merch, the BT Source t-shirt that you have. You know, nobody's seen the trainers yet or the shoes. So I'm not sure.
So the trainer, I was hesitating this morning, and the weather was very eerie, so meaning that's raining like crazy. So I said, okay, white trainer won't do very well with the rain. So so that's basically BT First, and we are the procurement company of BT, recently formed in Ireland, and we are obviously partnering with the business to be able to provide to our customer all the solutions that they are needed from us. And what we do when we're partnering with that, the interesting piece, and feel that I'm quite promoting this idea of us being the sales team of the bottom line, and you have Chet, the sales team of the top line. So that's relatively easy for me to partner with Chet, because again, we're on the two sides of the equation. Is getting the revenue, and I'm getting obviously the expense of BT, and that's what we do every day. So to tell our customer.
Now you say it's easy, and I want to get into how you actually do it, because a lot of organizations struggle with that. But just for folks who don't know the BT Source journey, could you just tell me a little bit about the transformation in procurement that BT is undertaking, and leading to the establishment of BT Sourced?
Yeah, so I joined BT 2 years ago, and last 6th of April, so we opened BT Sourced in Ireland, so which is, as I said before, so the procurement company of BT. We have two main objectives: to transform BT and the procurement organization, and two, to be an open platform. So meaning being an open platform. So at one point of time, so we welcome when we other partners or potential customer as well. So meaning that's basically setting procurement as a service. We are preparing as well a new offer, which will be digital procurement in a box, and that's what we're doing. So we're doing the procurements on behalf of BT Group.
Yeah.
And we have, I would say, radically transformed already. So the procurement organization, helping BT to transform by itself with our support, and as well being an open platform to potentially actually have partners joining us within BT Sourced.
Now, Chet, Cyril just talked a lot about digital transformation and digitization, and he set up the procurement garage to look at a lot of startups and ultimately really reinvigorate the procurement function around digital technology. I wonder, from your perspective as a stakeholder, how does that impact you? Do you see I was going to say the downstream effects of a more digital, of more use of digitization in procurement, but are you seeing it at the front end as well? And I just wonder kind of how you see that journey from an outsider perspective.
Yes, and the answer is yes. I mean, it's all aligned. It's all one end-to-end value stream, if you like. So the work that Cyril is doing with partners, with vendors, etc., and the whole digital garage concept is the first step in our co-creation and co-innovation process for go-to-market. So when we sell, we need to make sure, because as things simplify, actually they're getting much more complicated. Previously there used to be a few options available to big multinational customers. Now there's dozens of them, and they're all a little bit confused about, hey, should I buy A, B, or C, or what is it that we do? So part of my role within BT is to sort of assess that for our customers, assess the various options, the benefits, the ease of deployment, the technology, how digitized they are, how future-proof they are. And that starts with the work that Cyril and his team do, because at the onset of that relationship, we'll lock in that way to say, hey, this is the market opportunity we're seeing out here, and there's a few options here. So it's really important that we choose to partner with the right people here, because that's what we're going to build into our portfolio end to end, and that's going to be our sales. So the sales process, and Cyril sort of touched upon this, starts when procurement are engaged. And when they're speaking to partners as well. And I think importantly as well, we have quite a few partners, and Cyril will explain how many sort of partners we work with. Many of them are customers as well. Many of them are partners. And with many of them now, we also sell together. So our sales motion has evolved to say, hey, how do we go to market with a vendor that specializes in X, and us can go to market together? And wouldn't it be even more powerful if we do that together going forward? And so that's what we focus on going forward. And the other aspect is, every big multinational customer is going through a similar sort of journey that Cyril has taken BT Sourced through. They may be at various stages, but they're going through that journey. And effectively, when I often ask Cyril, can you go and meet this customer or that customer or the other customer? Not because we're trying to get them to consume some of our stuff, but because we want to sort of, share our thinking, share our ideas with them. Cyril recently met a big multinational pharmaceutical company for us, and explained to them, the diversity that we have in procurement, the sustainability angles, etc. And you know what? They just feel more they feel closer to us, because we have the same sort of attitude, the same mentality, and a similar sort of culture, which is really helpful to us all end to end. So it really starts with some early thinking right at the beginning of the procurement process that sort of helps us with the end-to-end go-to-market and building closer collaborative relationships.
So that's really fascinating. It's fascinating that, you think about procurement as being a value proposition of BT when you're going and talking on the customer side. So it's not that, procurement is, hidden in the office and they're working on deals and they're making sure that they get the right contract, they're managing risk and everything. You're actually discussing the relationship you have, and that's something that's attractive to that provides a differentiator to you when you're in the marketplace.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Cyril always jokes that he should be on a sales remuneration plan. Effectively, he's speaking to my customers so often on a daily, basically a daily basis, and we have to recognize that they're sort of partners of ours, but they're also customers, and we go to market together. So it's complicated. It's complicated. We will purchase some stuff off them because we rely on their capabilities. They'll do the same the other way around when it sort of suits them and when it hits their spot, and then we'll go to market together as well. So it's quite a complicated environment that's been created.
I want to come back to a couple of questions, but Cyril, when you look at your suppliers as being customers as well, and you have kind of this network and ecosystem, does that change the relationships and how you work with your suppliers over something that may be more of a transactional, a buyer-seller relationship?
So it's when we're doing procurement, so we're still doing procurement in a very professional way. So I mean that's and then after that, as Chet was saying, so we are extremely aligned internally as well. So we're looking at what best for BT on both sides as well. So it's definitively actually so pretty much the same than any other suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
Much more the way we are looking at the relationship, which is slightly different because we are not doing any way transactional stuff with our supplier base. Because back to my notion of us being the sales team of the bottom line, so we're setting our capacity to buy something. So we know that you've got an extremely consolidated supplier market. So you have to make yourself desirable for any of your suppliers. I mean that the transactional time, I believe it's gone, and it's gone a while ago already. So I mean that we're far from being transactional. But the one that with whom we've got this kind of relationship, yes, we've got something a bit more special. We've got something a bit more, I would say a bit more, a broader focus for BT and looking at the value which is generated for BT overall end to end.
Mm-hmm. Does that change how you're measured within the organization? Like, you look at procurement and obviously, the traditional cost savings measures. Are you putting more metrics or objectives on your team or reporting up to the business?
It's exactly what Chet was trying. So I'm actually discussing with him to just get him a week of his bonus back to us. But that's the challenge right now. So last time I just asked for a bottle of champagne for the team. So that's too much.
But actually, it's really interesting because when we're sort of entering a new category, and let's take something like networking, SD-WAN, there are dozens, probably more than dozens of companies that do that technology capability. We've got to find the right one from a commercial, a technical, a logistic perspective, and somebody who our customers will recognize going forward. So we pride ourselves on being a trusted advisor to say, hey, you got lots of choice, lots of optionality. It's really confusing. And there's different horses for different courses, but we'll guide you through that. And so our procurement team are heavily involved in sort of helping us assess all the optionality so we can put our best foot forward and bring something unique with our management and service wrap to the market. And unless we do a really good job right at the onset, we won't be as attractive to our end customers. So it's really important that we get that right.
That early involvement is something that for a lot of procurement teams is like the holy grail. It's, we're always pushing to try and be involved in the decision-making process or to be bringing insights to the table when those decisions are made. And it's something that we often struggle with. I just wonder, has it always been the case at BT where you've had that relationship with procurement, or has there been a time when you've looked at procurement and perhaps not had the perception that that's an area that they can help you with? Because what I'm trying to understand is like, how can other procurement professionals make the case, if you will, that this is an area that they can help their organization with?
Yeah, I think it's all about unlocking value, if I'm perfectly honest. And, when I arrived in this role in BT, sort of coincided when Cyril arrived. Mm-hmm. It was probably I was probably person within the first 10 people you met in BT, Cyril, I want to sort of say. And then, we could automatically see that if we think differently, we can unlock more value for BT.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we'll be more competitive in the market and will unlock even more value for our customers.
Yeah.
So joining that together and aligning values and objectives, working together to say, hey, how can we create a win over here within procurement, which is really good for you guys, and also a win over here for our customers is really, really important. And I know the procurement guys now, every time we win something, and we win something daily, at least one or two things a day, the procurement guys feel a sense of pride. They're sort of puffed up a bit because they think, hey, we all played a small bit in that success, and we can see that. So aligning that sort of with your head, but also with your heart emotionally, and getting everybody on board with the same mission is super, super critical. And that's what, Cyril was brilliant, approached it differently from a procurement perspective, and we've just embraced it since then, to be honest.
Yeah, and thank you, Chet. So it's a very good depiction of what we're doing within BT, and we've got, first of all, obviously a regular meeting between Chet, myself, and our respective teams. I mean that we're just one team. So that's super key, obviously, in this success. And in addition to that, I would say what we try to do as well on the digitalization. So back to your question as well, Phil, earlier, is that to give to Chet and his team. So all the tools that they can use without us. I mean that they can check the spend with the supplier, they can check the risk with the supplier, so they can check a lot of stuff on their own, and that's very good as well. So because there's like more transparency, and if there's more transparency, there's more trust as well. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's what's enabled us as well to be on the fact that we were basically on the exactly same mindset, really focusing on the customer, the one which matters. I mean that's the BT's customer. And what we offered as well, in addition to that, on the procurement side, it's all the digital tool that we have developed, which is really enabling. So, and I love, because Chet was one of our the one pushing the most for our digital tool, because he understood very quickly the value that he was able to get from that. So we left, I would say, so usually the tool that or the e-sourcing tool that we deployed years and years ago were very tuned to procurement. The tool that we are now deploying with the digital platform that we picked are not just only used by procurement, but as well by Chet, by our colleagues on finance and stuff like that. So it's very easy to use. It's consumer grade. It's easy to use. It's clear, transparent, and that's give them as well. So I would say all the tool and the right information to better engage with us as well. So because we are extremely transparent on what we are doing, what's the information that we can share with them.
And it's all real time. So within 10 seconds, I can figure out exactly what we're doing with any one of our partners with the tooling that Cyril and the team have invested in. So if I'm going into a meeting with a partner or with a customer, it's just there. It's at your fingertips. So you know exactly how much, when, why, etc., which is super, super powerful.
Yeah, you don't need to wait for a procurement person to put together a PowerPoint that takes you a week, and it's really dependent on what they decide they want to share with you. Did you feel some vulnerability with that, Cyril, or was that you really want to push towards that transparency?
No, absolutely not, because I'm perfectly fine. So meaning that as I said, and as Chet was saying, so what matters to us is the customer. So the one paying the bill, to be very clear as well. So that's what matters to us. And I would say the more transparent I can be to Chet for him to be successful with our customer, the more happy I am. So meaning that I don't have to hide anything. He has access to absolutely every sourcing program that we are doing, all the spend, all the risk management, everything is completely available at his fingertips, the same for his team. So I don't have to hide anything. So I want to make him successful, and I want our customer to be successful with us.
Now, you've talked to me in the past about having some of the tools that you use actually in the hands of sales folks in the field. Could you talk a little bit about how you're ultimately translating what is a procurement tool into something that is enabling, a field salesperson to overcome an objection on a client visit?
So let's take and you know that it's top of the mind of pretty much everyone nowadays, which is risk management. So we've got a risk management platform, which is very simple. So you can have that on your mobile phone, on your iPad. You've got an app. And if Chets and people in Chet's organization wants to demonstrate to our customer how we're managing a risk, they can do that, and they can do that live. So they can basically, on their mobile phone, on their laptop, or on their iPad, show to the customer. So if the customer has like any objection, regarding the way we're managing our risk within BT. So we can basically live at the customer premises, show everything that we're doing and being super transparent. And if the customer even wants us to connect their risk management platform to our risk management platform, so we're more happy to do that. That's how I can see. So some of the procurement tool, which used to be just only kept very close to the procurement guys and not shared, so can be used basically by our sales teams when they are meeting with customer. And more than that, as I said, so meaning that we can connect our customer to our platform as well. So to get better transparency to our customer and as well, so the right level of confidence when they are dealing with BT.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple
really
of
important from a sales perspective for me. Sorry, Philip.
No, please go ahead.
Many of our end customers, the multinationals, the enterprises, are really keen to understand who, where the stuff originates from, where it's going, tax, compliance, regulatory, ESG, all these sorts of things. And we now have a sort of live automated system that we can explain this to them in a very thorough and transparent way, obviously protecting the minutiae of data. We don't need to go into all of that, but we can reassure them and answer many of their questions, which maybe would have taken a week or two. Oh, I'll get back to you on that. Well, let's organize a call for that. We'll cover that next month at our meeting. No, we can do it straight away, which just helps create value quicker.
Do you feel that that's a differentiator when you're talking to clients? I know we talked a little bit about it's been unusual, for example, for Cyril to be in front of prospects, our clients, but when you're actually in the sales process, is that helping you providing another value proposition from BT to your prospects that separates you in the market?
Absolutely. So it sort of helps differentiate because it's really quick, it's really real time, it's really thorough, it's really accurate, but also helps us think about what questions we should be asking our end customer. So do you buy anything of these types of people or suppliers yourself? And what are the terms of this and the X for that? It helps us shape that question and gets to a realization that, hey, actually, there's value that BT can bring because we have, Cyril's organization, the BT sourced organization, has huge purchasing power, and we aggregate that across hundreds of we deal with like 95% of the FTSE 100, 90% of all the banks in the world, et cetera, globally. And if we're buying components and services and bits of solutions that we put together and manage, that will give us huge buying power, which we want to unleash for the benefits of our customers. And when we explain the story to them, they all sort of get it straight away.
Right.
And there's even more of a dialogue and even more questions to follow on from that as well.
So I have a couple of questions that have come in the chat, but I'm just going to hold on those for a minute because they're more around the structure itself of BT Sourced, because it's still a relatively new structure in a lot of industries. I want to talk a little bit about competitive tension. When I think about procurement, I think that, there's this pendulum of we're working in our bubble and we're doing things that perhaps aren't aligned with the needs of the business at all. And we look at the business as saying, oh, making all these decisions, they don't understand how to buy. There's just a real kind of competitiveness, I guess, between business and procurement. The other side is saying we're going to support them in everything they do, but essentially that could mean saying yes to everything. We want them to be happy customers. So, when you do that, you become somebody who can help run a process, but not necessarily who can be an advisor, a consultant. And sometimes that tension is a positive tension. And I wonder how you manage that. And Cyril, I'm going to ask you that first from a procurement perspective. Like, as you're trying to build that relationship with Chet and Chet's team, how do you still maintain that? If you see the team doing something that maybe you wouldn't recommend, how do you handle that? How do you keep that tension in that relationship?
I believe that's so between procurement and any stakeholder, you have always to have an healthy friction. So if you don't have an healthy friction, so you cannot get the maximum value. So exactly for the reason that you were mentioning before. So yes, we from time to time tend to disagree, but it's anyway for the benefit of our customers. So that's what matters. And yes, we are voicing our opinion if we've got a different opinion, and they are voicing as well their opinion, saying that's from this healthy friction that we're creating more value. as you said, so saying yes to everything would make absolutely no sense. Saying no to everything would make absolutely no sense as well. We just have to understand where to put the cursor into that, and how we said, okay, so we will go with that, or no, we don't go with that, so because we believe that there's more value on this. So that's this healthy friction that we're trying to create between us and the stakeholder, and again, so always focusing obviously on the customer. Mm-hmm. That's really helped because we're looking at exactly in the same direction for both of us.
And also just add to that, if I may, because Cyril actually gets me involved in the recruitment process for procurement as well, because he sort of gets the fact that, hey, the skill set in procurement is also evolving, and there's different criteria, et cetera, et cetera. So, we just hired somebody about 6, 8, 9 months ago. Yep. Cyril interviewed him, I interviewed him, we interviewed him together, and this person had the skill set that was really, really good for procurement, but also really, really good for me, for sales. And we can see that this individual was going to be able to have one foot on the boat and one on the dock and be able to do both things really, really well and join it together because they had the right mindset and the right skill set. So this is, again, how we sort of try and make sure we engender this in a way that's going to be really, really successful and joint working. And yes, there'll be occasions when I'm sort of thinking, hey, you know what, it's the wrong time to have this conversation with this person or the wrong time over here. But hey, these were things that would have happened before. We can manage them now. It might not be the best of news, but we can manage that a lot better now and present it in a more joined up, grown up way to our partners as well. So that's also very, very helpful and useful.
Yeah, that shared objectives, runs through this conversation deep, so important that you're both on the same page. And I think what you said earlier about communicating kind of the wins within procurement and sharing those, there's something to be said for, when you're in what we would class as more indirect procurement, so you don't necessarily see the impact of what you're working on from a day-to-day basis. It's really easy to feel just detached, I guess, from what you as the stakeholder are working on, in a way that it isn't so much when you're working in a manufacturing business, an automotive business, or something when you do something and you see the car driving down the road. So having that, I think, is really, really important. I was going to follow up, but I think based on what you said, I may know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What is it that, from your perspective, Chet, when Cyril or Cyril's team do push back on ideas or on decisions or strategies, what is it that makes you listen to what they have to say? That gives what they say that the gravitas, if you will, that you take it on board.
Yeah, I'm massively into diversity of thinking, to be honest. And I like to surround myself, my team, with people who are coming at things and problems from different angles. And what Cyril's team will provide is experience, knowledge, and know-how of potential partners and the pitfalls, etc. I mean, the number of times I've had a conversation with Cyril and he'll say, hey, but 4 or 5 years ago, yada, yada, yada. Or 2 years ago, or I know so-and-so. I know this company, I know this individual, and they may not be ready to have this conversation yet, but it's a good one to have. Maybe have it in another 6 months' time or so. So that diversity of thinking and input from procurement is super helpful to us in the process, saves us time, saves us cost, saves us energy, and makes us more effective because our hit rate is higher. And at the same time, it'll sort of impress our customers as well that we're not having the wrong conversation with them at the wrong time. Because we've got experience and we've got a 360-degree view of customers with lots of input from procurement, legal, and other departments as well, which is super helpful. It just makes us look even more polished in front of them.
And you talked a little bit about hiring and being involved in the hiring process. What's your ideal procurement professional? Like, what are you looking for in a procurement professional?
Well, we just hired a couple, didn't we, Cyril, in your team? So, I mean, those guys are pretty ideal. The profile we're looking at is somebody who's done professional procurement before, but actually who's been involved in sales processes as well. And actually, one of the things that we need to start thinking about and doing, Cyril, is sort of moving some of our people around, because that's where, They really see the end-to-end picture and a 360-degree view of what life is like on either side. So having somebody with those two experiences is a little bit like gold dust. Somebody who knows how to manage customer relationships, how to create value-based sales opportunities to solve customers' problems, and has done procurement professionally before, successfully before, is, for us, really ideal. There'd be other things, but those two things are front of mind.
And Cyril, from a hiring perspective, how, that's what are you seeing that skill set in the marketplace, or is it only a small fraction of procurement professionals that you see right now that do have that?
There's still a small fraction of the procurement professional which have that, but you've got more and more as well. So because a few years back when I started my career, so you had a huge number of suppliers and you were much more on the transactional side. And right now, so meaning that especially in the telecom industry, if you think about the handsets, right now it's pretty much Apple or Samsung. You are very limited. So the way you are managing the supplier is completely different. And the kind of profile that we need as well are very different than the one that we used to have in the past. Some have been able to evolve, by the way, so there's no issue about that, and some other not. But anyway, so it's not right now, I would say, the mainstream. So they are not mainstream. Much more like gold dust was, as Chet was saying before. But there's more and more of this kind of profile. And what we need as well, so it's when we are hiring procurement professional, we're very clear about who the customer are. The customer are the one who are paying the bill. So Chet and I, so we're partners in crime, if I may. But Chet is not my customer. So the customer, there's only one, the one paying the bill. And if we're all looking in the same direction, so we're extremely aligned, because that's we are here, all of us, to make BT successful and our customers successful.
Now, I'm going to ask a couple of questions that came in. We've got just 5 more minutes left. Mark asked, does BT Sourced consider itself a GPO?
No.
And if no, why not? I guess is the follow-up.
If no, why not? Because we're trying, so I don't want to reveal everything, but we're trying to position BT Sourced slightly different. We paraphrase someone that many of our viewers know, so meaning that we want to make procurement cool again. So and we've got some ideas to make it cool again. So that's we're not
watch this space.
Yeah, exactly. Watch this space.
A question from Chris. It's an interesting structure. What does BT see as the benefit of BT Sourced being a separate legal entity?
So it's what I said at the very beginning. So transformation and open platform. So open platforms will enable us to do more. It will be easier to deal with potential partners. And partners, when I'm speaking about partners, it can go very well from shareholder up to customers. So that's what BT Sourced will enable us to do, which was not the case when we were just a procurement organization of BT.
And a question from Philippe. Does BT Sourced charge the business or the sales team for its services? Or basically, how are you funded?
No, we're charging actually, so BT, but the finance department, and then after that, so like any organization, we charge. Yeah, that's the easiest way of doing the stuff.
Yeah.
Let me see if anybody else has got any questions. Please pop them in the chat. We have a couple more minutes. Let me see. I know I have a number of questions that I didn't ask, so I'm seeing where to go with the time that we have available, because this has been a fascinating session. Chet, how do you encourage members of your team to engage with procurement so that, if you have skepticism of folks in your team, well, we've worked with procurement in the past and, we've possibly had a bad experience and, they don't necessarily see the big picture that you do. How are you breaking those barriers?
Yeah. It's just by explaining the value of procurement. For example, I'm in Cyril's office next Friday with one of our newest and biggest global customers. And the reason we're doing this session with Cyril and some of his team and me and some of my team is because there's lots of value on the table. And then when we have these sessions, and we'll explain it to other salespeople, and they'll sort of get it and think, hey, if it's worked for them, it'll work for us. Now let's find the way it's going to work. It might not be the same formula. It might be slightly different, but it's very, very similar. So by explaining how we've driven value by working together, by celebrating together as well. When we win together. Explaining those things really means people lean forward because they think, hey, there's another resource here that can really, really help us going forward in the market. So little examples like that, Philip.
Well, I know it's about time to wrap up. I'm going to ask you one last question, Cyril. You obviously have a really strong relationship with Chet because of the shared objectives that you have and how you're actually helping differentiate BT in the markets that Chet is responsible for. Are you able to take that success and apply that to other parts of the business where there may be a little bit more hesitancy of working with procurement?
So I was pretty sure that you will ask the question, Phil, but I believe that it works pretty much the same across BT. So I mean that we might have like even a higher partnership with Chet, but I've got as well the same feedback or same relationship with the rest of BT. So it's more like a mindset that we have within BT of being sure that we are fully aligned end to end, and again for our customers. And no, that I would say so. Chet is probably the best example, the most advanced one, because he understood probably a bit more the value that we can bring to the table. But we've got the same partnership with the remaining of BT.
Awesome. Well, it's an inspiration for us all. I think the relationships that you're building together and really reimagining. I think because I think it's a procurement mindset thing as well around reimagining the art of the possible, because we as procurement professionals often don't believe that we can have such an impact in our organization, and it's on us to lead the change. It's on us to be proactive, not waiting for other people to come and ask us for that, the so-called seat at the table. I want to thank you for listening into today's episode of The Art of Procurement. To go deeper, including access to transcripts and actionable outtakes from the podcast, join the free level of our AOP Mastermind community. To learn more, go to artofprocurement.com/mastermind. And to find our entire back catalogue of almost 400 episodes, go to artofprocurement.com/podcast.